So we have been getting this question a lot recently about how Nintendo is reacting as pretty much everything about Switch 2 is just leaking left and right every day. And we've been inside the company for over, 15 years?
Saw a lot of leaks.
A lot of leaks. Saw a lot of leaks coming. We kind of know how they are, reacting to it. So we wanted to talk about that today.
Yes, and with the Switch 2 reveal being imminent, this feels like the right time to talk about this because this could impact the way that this huge product reveal is received.
Right.
Because so much has leaked. And I think they have been so bad that Nintendo just has reached this point where they have to reevaluate everything regarding how they handle information security, product security, before these things get announced. Because at one point, when we were there, the things they were doing worked. And for the most part, we could keep things under wraps.
Yeah.
And there still were leaks, but they certainly were not to this extent, and certainly not to this caliber of a product.
Yeah.
And I think they need to realize the processes they've been using did not work. They no longer work. The result was made worse by their mindset that they could control everything, that they could clamp it down. Like, oh, no problem. Leaks, we have ways to deal with those. And these are not things that only Nintendo deals with. Every company goes through this, especially when you're manufacturing hardware. So for them to think, okay, well, this is what happens to every other company, but we're going to be different. I don't really like that mindset.
They do fall into that mindset a lot. When we were there was always this kind of mentality of like, this won't happen to us.
We're different.
We're different. We have different ways of controlling the situation or maintaining the control. But the fact of the matter is they're not different than any other company. The other thing that really struck me as a different scenario is it's been, 8 years since they had a major hardware release. It's a different situation when you're like an Apple and you kind of go through this cycle every year. So you can keep on top of the things that may cause things to leak, or you're just on top of those potential risks. But with Nintendo not doing this for, 8 years, like the times have changed. The situation has changed. Leakers have gotten way smarter as well in that time frame, and they have not reevaluated their way of thinking since 8 years ago, and that's a real problem, as we saw.
And even Apple, who is, in a lot of ways analogous to Nintendo in how fiercely they feel about, surprising announcements.
Yeah.
It seems like they have just sort of given up on there's going to be a certain amount of leaks.
Right.
A certain group of our fan base will know about this, and it's X months before, it's like, you will know about the new iPhone.
Right.
It's not going to be a surprise.
It's not going to be a surprise.
Whereas this is a new thing for Nintendo. It seems to really, unsettle the fan base, because even they're like, what, the Nintendo thing leaked, like we're really not used to this thing leaking to this extent. But as far as it is good to differentiate what the source of the leaks are. So you have the leaks that come from the manufacturing that happens overseas,
right?
But there have also been other leaks that have been happening that seem to be the phone calls coming from within the building.
Yeah.
So it's just like a unanimous world, around every aspect of the company, there are issues with this.
Right. Yeah. And then, they deal with this on a certain scale with Nintendo Directs and things like that. And they have since, figured out some processes to help with that. But this is just on another scale altogether. And they're just very ill-equipped. And like you were saying before, because of their mindset of we are different, this can't possibly happen to us, they have not had the foresight to put things in place in the months and even years leading up to this reveal of their new hardware to really prevent this from happening. And now the most important thing to Nintendo has been spoiled, which is maintaining this element of surprise for their fan base. And there's been a lot of discussion too about maybe these leaks seem serious to people that are within the community, that are really, tuned into everything that's happening, but the broader audience will still be surprised. I think that's true to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But you know, the sort of the broad Nintendo fan base, the people that you want to get on your side right away when you announce something new and exciting, that surprise is gone for those people.
And it is easy to just go like, oh, those are fans. They're they're going to do fan stuff. But like those are the people who come up with the early kind of opinion on this thing.
That's exactly right.
It's like, oh, my cousin Johnny, he's hey Johnny,
a gamer.
Hey Johnny, what do you think of the new Nintendo thing? Should I get that? Oh, it sucks. Oh, okay, I won't get that. Like that's where these like opinions that become mainstream start.
Exactly. That's when your mom always calls you and says, "Did you read about Nintendo in the newspaper?" And you have to give her your opinion. You know, that happens to all of us. I think everybody has a circle that is like that.
Right. But in terms of, inside Nintendo, that sense of surprise is like so valuable and so important. And like we've even seen some people saying like, oh, maybe they did this on purpose. It's like, no,
we have
that's,
to.
That's ridiculous.
We absolutely have to squash that line of thinking.
Please stop with this.
Please stop. I'm serious. It's really annoying.
We would hear like 30-minute lecture, like the value of surprise, the importance of surprise. Nothing we do.
The company motto is surprise and delight.
Is more important than surprising. Like this is why we must do yada yada yada. It's like and we would just sit there and not. We understand. We get it. It's like we know, but like let us please reinforce these important tenets of the company overall. So. There's absolutely nobody trying to do this on
purpose.
On purpose.
It's not manufactured.
But this really does have a very disruptive impact on what the company's trying to do now, which is announce and launch a new console, which is hard enough as it is.
It's a very difficult thing to do already, to get all your stuff ready so that you can put out a really exciting, really impactful message about your new system to the world. That's a very difficult task in and of itself, and now it's being disrupted daily for months with these leaks, and I am 100% sure that they are really like mad, like
absolutely
to the most severe level. Yes, this is we joke around about the hot exclamation mark emails. They are hot, hot, hot.
Right.
How many exclamation marks could be at the end of this? They are very, very, very upset by this.
And to their credit, like they do have very good people who investigate these things. They will eventually get to the bottom of it, but it takes time and it takes a lot of just talking to everybody involved. So again, like you talk about, this is hard work. This is a lot of work. Like the people who are working on this, and it's not the whole company. Like there's only a small group of people.
They're a small team. Maybe they've expanded the team
since then. At this point, who are allowed to know this information. They need to focus all of their efforts onto this. But now they have to do like half of their day is going to be eaten up with like, I need to talk to you about every step that you have taken to this point. Who have you talked to? Like, where do you think this could have happened?
Share this information
with.
And
quite frankly, that's time they don't have.
Right.
That's time that you don't have.
And we have been through the cycle before when we have worked on products that have leaked when we were inside the company. And yes, you basically have another full-time job of being part of the investigation on these leaks. The other thing is that the company has a really strong mentality of wanting to just like get to the bottom of it. I think every company does, right?
Yeah,
and
it's natural.
It's really natural and really like trying to figure out what's going on. So Nintendo is such a process-driven company too that when they say like, let's get to the bottom of this, what they mean is you need to prepare like 10,000 reports, which again, if you're
nobody has the time to
if you're working to launch and announce a new console, like this is definitely just time you do not have to do this.
Right.
And they're so information driven as a company. They just want every little detail all the time about everything. And when a leak happens, that is their like immediate like sort of like reaction. Is like, give me all the information, give it to me now. And you're basically on the hook. Whoever is working on this, whoever knew about this, whoever was disclosed on this product is now on the line to like share, an unending amount of information to the teams about this. And it is just extremely disruptive. It's a very high stress situation as well because you just really feel like you're in the hot seat.
I mean, it's like
as well.
The finger is pointed at like okay, who am I talking to next? Maybe it's you, maybe it's you.
Yeah.
Because nobody knows.
Right.
And it really does start to become disruptive because let's say, this is just random. Like let's say you have 5 people who are allowed to work on this thing at its most secret point. Eventually, that needs to become 15. That needs to become 30.
Yeah.
But if you have a problem with leaks, the people who are who's saying, okay, you can add these people, they're going to be like,
no, you can't add these.
Why don't you keep it with just those 5 people? Because we're freaked out now.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. That group of people gets
But
shrunken.
Again, as time goes on, the amount of work that needs to happen gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and yet you're still having 5 people doing all of that work, which becomes a very negative thing.
Yeah, and it impacts the announcement in such a real way too. Like when you don't have the resources inside your company to work on something as important as this because you're so freaked out and you're so wrapped up in the investigation of leaks in the days leading up to this announcement, that has a true disruptive, negative impact, Like you're just, one person does not have the capacity to do all the things. So and I feel bad for them.
It can't help. It cannot help, and I'm not trying to twist a knife here, it cannot help that they have turned over the majority of their marketing department in the last 3 to 4 years. We had a very established, a lot of people had worked there for 10 plus years, including ourselves. Now you're adding people who have been there 2 years, 3 years. Can I trust this person? Do I know this person? Have I spent enough time to fully know, to not get paranoid about this person? I don't know. I just think it's a highly chaotic situation in there right now and a real pressure cooker.
Yeah, that's another thing that was really unique working at Nintendo is the relationship between the parent company in Japan and the leadership team in Japan and the subsidiary companies, whether it's NOA or NOE. The relationship was very much based on trust and time. You didn't walk in the door day one and knock on Mr. Furukawa's door and be like, yo, I'm new, you should trust me. And he's like, sure, awesome, I totally trust you.
That doesn't happen.
That is such not the way that a Japanese company works. And it took us, I think, a better part of our entire career of, me almost 13 years at Nintendo to gain that level of trust. Even at that last point, I think I was still only about 70% there. I wasn't 100% trusted all the time. It just takes so much time for them to get on that level with you. And I just can't imagine the new teams having that level of trust right now. So now there is this kind of air of suspicion and just well, what did you do wrong, or who did you tell, who had access to this, and that's just a really toxic environment to be in. You know what I mean?
And this will carry over and have long-term ramifications as they figure out, are we going to change these processes? What did go wrong? In the meantime, it's just going to be clamped down so much more.
Yeah.
Because again, everybody's just on high alert for these things.
Right.
We did want to wrap up just by talking about, because we have a kind of a tangible example of this with what happened with Genki, the accessories maker, last week in Las Vegas at CES, where they had, a mocked up Switch 2, and as the news reports say, they had a conversation, Nintendo's lawyers showed up to their booth and seems to have shaken them up to where they were kind of backtracking on well, how did I get this information? What is this?
Yeah, we didn't know it was going to be so popular, they said.
Right.
Yeah,
so, I mean, they did pre-promote well in advance. Hey, we're going to have our Switch 2 stuff at CES. Come check it out. And, we've been saying, they've been using this as their kind of hook for viral marketing. So it's possible that Nintendo saw that and said, "Oh yeah,
get on the plane, lawyers.
we're going to see this and we're going to have a talk with them." And they planned to go. CES is a show. Nintendo always has people going to CES
just to investigate,
to check stuff out and see what it is, and who knows.
Make reports.
And they might have a partner that they're doing a meeting with or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Or it's possible they saw the extent of how bad this was, and they're like, you're getting on a plane tonight.
Yeah.
You're going to Vegas.
Buy a ticket, you're going to Vegas right now.
And the next day they showed up and said, we need to talk.
Yeah.
And, it remains to be seen what the legal case that they have against Genki is. There's a lot of nefarious stuff out there of the Switch 2 is available on the black market in China. if they got it that way, like that's a different story versus like, hey, we just saw the pictures that were posted online and we made this thing ourselves and we're just guessing, which is their story.
Probably their side of the story.
Right, which is their story, but I think it's fair for Nintendo to go and ask some questions like, how did you get this information?
Right.
What's going on here?
And I guess Nintendo never signed like any sort of. They were not officially.
They're not an
partnered
officially licensed partner
with Genki, exactly.
Right.
So there's no like contractual obligation
right.
of like keeping something under an NDA. That is not a thing that happened between these two companies.
So if they're just making stuff based on hypotheticals and other stuff that showed up online, like again, I'm not a lawyer, but that feels to me very different from I bought a Switch 2 on the black market. Oh no, Genki.
Don't admit that.
Genki.
throw that black market Switch into the river.
Right. So
oh geez.
Again, with the announcement, days, hour, who knows, how close we are to it. It is just important to look through this lens because I think whatever information gets shared there, like a lot of it's going to be like, oh, we knew that. I'm waiting for some new information that I don't yet know.
Now it's so much harder to surprise me.
And it's impacting the way that we are all going to view this official announcement.
Yeah, this is such an interesting place for us to be on the other side of this. I think, yes, we have been in the hot seat with leaks, with the investigation of leaks, being inside the company when these things were going down. It is not a fun time. I do feel very badly for the people that are dealing with this. I can only imagine, and I understand your stress and how many hours you have probably worked at this point, and maybe you're going a little bananas. But yeah, it is a tough place to be, and yeah, I do wonder, how it's going to eventually impact our reaction to the actual announcement.
Exactly.
So, yeah, well, there you have it. There is our analysis on what Nintendo might be going through right now emotionally and spiritually and mentally around these leaks. What do you guys think? Have you been following the leaks? I know a lot of people are trying to avoid them, but how are you avoiding
That's hard.
How are you avoiding them? That sounds hard. I've given up because
it's just everywhere.
It's just everywhere. Yeah. Anyhow, hopefully we're days away from this
Feels
announcement,
like it.
and yeah, we'll be here to share in the excitement and the highs and lows with all of you, and yeah.
More to come.
More to come. We're going to wrap it up, and we'll see you later.
Bye.